Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Agritecture's travel-free digital conference series. I'm Henry Gordon-Smith, founder and CEO at Agritecture, and today I'll be hosting this episode, which is going to feature Jeff Bisberg, CEO of Illumitex. How you doing, Jeff?
Great, good morning. Hate to do it with this cloud over our head, but fantastic idea, great use of technology, and glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
You haven't commented on my hat, Jeff. It's a Omani kima, which I've been given by my hosts here as I'm a Corona refugee in Oman right now.
Yeah, I saw that you were calling in from Oman, and I did a double take on that, and hopefully it's manageable there.
Yeah, look, the weather's good. It's pretty calm. There's not too many cases, and they closed the borders a while ago, so I'm good, and I'm embracing it as fully as I can. But it's great that we have technology to be able to talk this way. So to those of you who are just listening in for the first time, Agritecture is responding to the mass cancellation of events around the world. I myself lost about 7 speaking opportunities in 2 months as a result of COVID-19, and that's set to continue for a significant part of the year. And so what we're doing here is we're trying to give a voice to amazing, incredible thought leaders around the industry of ag tech so that they can continue to grow their business, and so we can continue to share ideas while we're all hopefully quarantined and staying safe at home. So if you like this content, please subscribe on YouTube. It's Agritecture's YouTube channel, youtube.com/agritecture. You can also like this video and feel free to comment and engage in the post, the video to ask questions, and maybe Jeff and I will follow up in the future. So with that said, I'm just gonna share your intro screen for a minute. So it's been really interesting for me to get to know Illumitex over the past few years. I got to visit the facilities in Austin. I got to work with several members of your team in the past on events and other aspects in the industry. So I was really excited to hear from one of your colleagues or one of your employees, Dennis Reiling, about the shift towards AI and FarmVision. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with Jeff Bisberg. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it on to you, Jeff.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing and creating this. It was this is a shortened, abbreviated version of a talk that I was going to give at the Cannabis Science Conference in Baltimore about AI in agriculture. And yeah, no, absolutely. I think we need to keep pushing forward and using new tools. And as I said earlier, in some sense, this is a exemplification, this very exercise of your Travelist conference on how digital transforms conferences and allows us to communicate and connect from afar. And really, I'm going to be talking about how this sort of takes that to the next level. But before our digital discussion, some of you may know Illumitex is an LED lighting company, and we recently made a pivot into a pure play ag tech company. And although our LED business was growing at close to 50% year-over-year growth rates, our ability to differentiate and communicate our differentiation to our customer got increasingly difficult as dozens, if not hundreds of other LED companies enter the market. And let's face it, there's really only a couple companies that actually make the raw LEDs themselves, and only a couple companies that make power supplies. So really, by simple limitation, these products really have, most of them have exact same components with very similar performance levels. So while that's great for the farmers, actually, it's because it's going to drive prices down pretty rapidly. So farmers are going to be able to deploy cost-effective, great LED products. It really kills margins for a lot of the LED lighting companies. Now, at Illumitex, we've been developing our FarmVision AI as our differentiator for our light fixtures. The original idea was to have it matched up with the light fixtures, sort of like the camera is matched to your cell phone. But we've made a hard decision. We pulled the trigger, made the leap, and we've divested totally of LED lighting into a pure play ag tech company. So very exciting times, as you can imagine, for us. The technology is ready. It's deployed. We have around 2,000 cameras deployed, and early adopters are enjoying the new capabilities that this provides. And events like this pandemic, unfortunately, might help actually some of the more mainstream a population of farmers seek digital solutions to help their capabilities and from farming from afar. So, it's our belief, it's really our thesis now that digital solutions are absolutely necessary to move farming onto a new productivity trajectory to achieve growth rates and profitability to meet the ever-growing needs for worldwide demand of quality food. What better than you coming in from Omar, where I'm sure you can get a fresh salad there any day, any time now. And models such as this one by Deepak Ray and the team at University of Minnesota really show that our current farming strategies are not going to be enough to double production, meet the demand we need. On the other hand, digital capabilities have dramatically transformed dozens of businesses in many markets. We're most familiar with the top ones shown on the graph on the right there. Infotech, media, heck, we're using one right now, webinars. And McKinsey did this study to look at the level of digital utilization in 22 different industries. And unfortunately, agriculture, which needs some of the solutions now, is at the very bottom of the list. And our contention at Illumitex is that they don't want to be at the bottom of the list. We don't want to be at the bottom of the digital list. But we're stuck at the bottom, not because we want to, but because we're missing something. There's a critical piece of the puzzle that we're missing that's going to allow us to move up that digital list. And successful implementation of that piece is going to move us forward. So before I get to the secret reveal what that magic piece is, let's shift a moment to the predicament that the farmer is. And we see that there's dozens, if not hundreds of variables that need to be monitored, analyzed, controlled, really at near infinite locations in a large scale farm. Everything from environmental factors, biological factors, genetics, human beings in the loop, and there's almost no way for anybody with any amount of education really to fully understand and control everything that's going on. The analog system way beyond its limits, and it's only going to get worse as it gets more competitive and larger farms start to be deployed. And digital is designed to handle this. It's designed to handle complexity at scale and perfectly suited to deal with this data overload. But the reality is computers and farms have been around for a long time. So if digital is so great, why aren't we seeing progress? Why aren't there massive digital booths at Cultivate? We go to Cultivate and we barely see any digital. So let's dive into it a little bit deeper and try to figure out why digital isn't happening faster. Now, for digital to work, we need to step back, take a higher look, and really try to digitize farming as a system. And what is that system? 3 big pieces: inputs, processes, outputs. Now, a lot of us focus on the input side of this equation. And the Internet Things is coming up very rapidly to provide solutions for gathering granular input data on the farm at high resolution and high frequency. So we can get temperatures and humidities really pretty easy now. It's not widely deployed, but it's coming up to speed pretty darn quickly. So that's huge. That's a big critical piece. That solves a third of the puzzle, one big wedge of the pie there. The processes, the stuff that actually happens on the farm. Well, there's companies out there, Artemis, Work, Granular. They're taking care of that second wedge of the pie by digitizing the process data, the activities that need to be managed on a daily basis, hourly basis, maybe even sometimes minute by minute. So great, we got 2/3 of farming as a system digitized. But now we come to that output data. In many cases, outputs are measured when the crop is harvested. That might be monthly, it might be quarterly. For leafy greens, every 20 days. For cannabis, that's 50 to 60 days. And this is where the feedback loop breaks down. This is the most important part of the talk you're going to hear today, is that for this feedback loop to work, for digitizing loop to work, we need output data that's on the same time frame as the input data and the process data. There's no way to close that when one's coming in quarterly and the other one's coming in on the second. So it just doesn't work. So our contention at Illumitex is that the very reason ag is at the bottom of McKinsey's digitization list is that it's missing the near real-time digital output data that allows us to close the digital loop and drive new outcomes by that. We're relying on analog systems to close that output data. So at Illumitex, we think we found the answer. We think we found that missing pie wedge, and we're so excited about it. We've shut down the majority of our business. We've shut down our LED line, and we're focusing exclusively on closing the digital loop and rolling out our solution that we call FarmVision AI that collects near real-time output data on the farm, and for the first time, truly enables digital transformation of agriculture, right? So what is real-time output on the farm? What is that data? And quite simply, it's the instantaneous change in the morphology, color, size, and shape of the plants. Currently, farmers and growers walk the greenhouse, take that data in with their eyes. They use years of education, years of training and experience to figure out what's going on the farm and what's needed. And it's an analog process. They're using that supercomputer that we each have on top of our shoulders that was gifted to us when we're born. And the amount of data we're saying is just beyond the capability of that one supercomputer. So every single plant is required because the farm is never completely uniform across every single plant. Now, point and shoot imaging solutions are absolutely useful for analyzing specific anomalies on a one-by-one basis. But if you really want to know what's happening on the total farm, you need pictures of every single plant. After all, bad things can happen anywhere at any time. I mean, you can have a clogged irrigation emitter, you could have a light fixture that's out, you could have thrips over here, maybe someone did a bad job trimming on a specific bench during veg and you're getting a little mold outbreak. And part of the reason it's taken so long for digitization to happen is that this high resolution camera technology has only really become economical in the last year or two. So, a key piece of it is an economical deployment that allows short-term return on investment. So the fact is that cameras are an exponentially improving technology where the price performance per pixel of a camera is improving exponentially. And now we can deploy lots of high resolution cameras at a reasonable cost. So we almost closed that third wedge of the loop. There's one more piece to it, and that is extracting the digital information out of the images. So how do we extract those outputs? We leverage computer vision, artificial intelligence. Now, Vision AI is another technology that's been growing at exponential leaps and bounds. So we leverage worldwide developments of software that's commonly available to everyone, TensorFlow, OpenCV, and we can effectively, quickly stand up models to break the images down into the critical outputs that you see that we want to measure and use those as that output data, closing that third wedge of farming as a system. Here's an example. Let's say we want to count the number of cannabis flowers in a grow. Undoubtedly that's a key output that any farmer would want to know. Why wait into the end of harvest 50 days to know how much product you're going to have to put on your shelves at the dispensary? So to do that, first we route digital images of known flowers to TensorFlow. That's the software that analyzes it. TensorFlow has what's called a neural net algorithm framework embedded with an easy-to-use interface. And we feed hundreds, if not thousands of images into that. And we turn it from a generic neural net to a specific neural net that can detect flowers. We can now route new live images through that model and count accurately flowers for us. Now, true, the accuracy of the count will vary quite a bit on what kind of images we use for training, and that's part of our secret sauce on how do we train this up so that our algorithms are better than other people's algorithms. Now, this is another reason why that last piece of the digital loop has taken so long to close, because easy access to Vision AI is another piece that's only come available within the last year or so. So now we've got it. We've got the pictures, we've got the Vision AI system, and we can extract real-time outputs on the farm that we can connect with the real-time inputs and the real-time process data. So what are those outputs? Those outputs have blown up now from one output, one or two outputs, maybe weight of product at the end of 50 days or the number of lettuce heads at the end of 20 days, to dozens, if not hundreds of outputs that we can track, measure, analyze on a near real-time basis. You know, farmers have spent lifetimes accumulating knowledge, fine-tuning, visual assessment of the plants, and we can utilize those decades of hands-on experience and knowledge to do the training of that artificial intelligence that we can now deploy, you know, with software at scale to help all farmers catch things that they might not even know about, or they might not have time to get out into the grow and see. Basically, anything that you can see, we can now turn that into a digital output. Now, so for cannabis, we've gone from one output measured every 50, 60 days to dozens of outputs measured every single hour. And now we've synced up the time frame. So we got this same time frame on the input data, same time frame on the process data, same time frame on the output data, that'll allow us to close that loop to create new software that will drive amazing new outcomes. So let's bring it together. We got the outputs, we got the inputs, we feed them through, and we got amazing new outcomes. What are that's going to do? It's going to make better decision-making for the farmer. It's going to be improved efficiency on running your farm, increased productivity, lower costs, more competitive by fine-tuning what your product is, how it looks, how it smells and tastes, because those are expressed in physical aspects also, increased profitability, and faster innovation. So really open up the whole world of digital transformation to farmers who want to take advantage of that. Kind of amazing. So what are those benefits? You know, first level benefits, we see visualization. So let's say Henry, he's stuck in Omar there, and he's got a farm in, where are you, North Carolina or South Carolina? He could see his farm every single hour if he wanted to. He could scout it at high resolution, high intensity. He can train people how to do it. Loss prevention, weight increase. So it really opens up the world of closing that loop and connecting you through digital tools to the farmer. So kind of exciting. So normally at this stage, I'd flip over to an online demo. You know, we've made the application look like Google Maps inside the greenhouse. So it's very visual, and then we overlay detections and alerts on top of that. We have a sample here. If you want to see a demo, you know, I'd encourage you to reach out to me or Dennis Reiling, our VP of Biz Dev, or really any of the Illumitex sales folks. And I'll just wrap it up there, Henry. I think keeping it short and sweet is the best way to go. Thanks for the time and opportunity to tell you about our Farm Vision. We're closing the digital loop and driving digital transformation in agriculture. Thanks.
Wow, thank you, Jeff, for that illuminating presentation, and really exciting to hear about that pivot. I've got some questions to dive in. We may want to pull up some of your slides, but you know how to share a screen there. So I've got some follow-up questions after your presentation, which I found very interesting. So I guess one of my first questions is, you know, a lot of the farms that I visit, there's kind of the grower, and then there's the CEO or the business operator. And often the communication between those two parties can be a challenge. You know, tell us about how you see, or maybe you're already seeing, farmers and executives or farmers and business owners interacting with this data, and what your vision is of people using FarmVision AI for some of that feedback loop and some of those, you know, discussions that you're imagining or that typically happen on a farm.
That's a fantastic question. And, you know, we've seen a huge pivot on that customer. You know, selling lighting was really connecting with the grower. The grower understood the plants and was the best one to understand how light interacted with the plants. With the digital, we're finding a more broad interest base between the perhaps, you know, the executive team that's looking for managing the business and the farmer who's managing the plants. And because of that, there are different use cases. There are absolutely different use cases. So it's similar to LinkedIn, where they have similar in a greater context, where they have a sales module, they have a networking module, and they have different modules there because there are different use cases. Now, definitely early days for us there, but we are definitely seeing, unlike lighting, a much more equally weighted interest between sort of the seed level and the grower on the farm, and really different utilizations. And just to take it one step further, really on the grower side, what we're seeing is growers who have to drive a long distance. Let's say that your farm is located on the other side of town. There's complicated procedures to get in the farm, so you got to go through security, you got to gown up. Those farmers get the value proposition, those growers get the value proposition. Or for a business that has multi-state grows, where they're trying to have standard operating procedures across multi-facilities in multi-states, they totally get the value also. I think the farmer grower where they live next door to the farm and they can walk in is definitely on the slower side of the adoption curve. They're in there every day anyway, so they don't see it. So absolutely good insight there. And we're working on how do you move up that adoption curve, cross the divide and get it. But focusing on these lead users is the critical step for us. So we're focusing on farmers who already have adopted technology, have these distance issues and multi-state issues, and they're the ones who are seeing the value right off the bat.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good strategy because, I go to a lot of ag tech conferences and you see companies pitching everything from precision ag to dashboards, et cetera. And one of the challenges I hear very often speaking to the growers is, I feel like I'm spending more time teaching the tech company than the tech company is teaching me during that onboarding process. What is Illumitex doing? I mean, you mentioned targeting, which is really good, targeting growers that are looking to innovate and already using new technologies. But are there any other ways that Illumitex is trying to improve the onboarding process that makes your software stand out, your hardware and software stand out?
Yes, and I think, and you mentioned dashboards, there's a lot of dashboards out there, and there's too many dashboards. Again, this is sort of my biased opinion here, that are, numbers and charts and dials. And even me, I'm a technical guy, you sort of go eye blind to them. And especially growers and farmers who are used to looking at plants. So we try to tap into native behaviors, right? If you have to change behaviors, adoption rate is so much harder. So one native behavior, and I think we've sort of stumbled into it because we're visual based, is using a visual system as the foundation for our user interface. And subtle but important here is that the farmers love looking at the plants. The plants are their babies, and basing the interface around a visual system, we think taps into native behaviors that lowers the barrier of adoption. I mean, looking at a dashboard, you look at it once or twice, and then you sort of, go blind to where those dials are. And you can have small, important changes on dials that get lost in the noise of all of the numbers that are on that dashboard. So, I think tapping into native behaviors is a better way to get faster adoption of technology. So shifting it to the way the farmer wants to do it, as opposed to shifting the farmer to the way that you want to do it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And, what comes to mind is the process of observation and experimentation that's a natural part of a grower's life. And a lot of that is visual, like you said, checking on the plants, walking around the grow, really looking at them. And that's probably what they learned when they got the experience to grow, or what they learned from their studies as well. So what your tool essentially does, it kind of reminds them of that process, allows them to do that at more frequency, at more scale, without necessarily going to the site on location every time.
Virtually, they can virtually scout. That is,
virtually scout.
And it's a very natural thing. I find I scout some of our demo farms, and I find stuff before the farmer does, because your eye, let's face it, AI is not going to replace humans for a long, long time. So what we also tapped into is the ability to natively zoom and scan your very own farm and detect things. Like I can see one thing that we noticed is a new app is leaving debris in the aisle. So after trimming, often what we see is, unfortunately, someone forgets and leaves vegetation on the floor of the grow. So cleanliness. Now, AI, it would have been a long time if we had just relied on, AI of buds and flowers, but the native process of engaging with a visualization tool allowed us to see trim that has been left on the floor. Of course, that's bad because it's more susceptible for mildew and other bad things that can happen. And now we're creating an app that will only look at the aisles, try to detect when there's a debris in the aisle, and then create an app that's a warning system for the head grower saying, hey, there's stuff that's been left in that app. So really tapping into those native wander around and see what you find kind of behavior I think is differentiating.
You talked a lot about closing the digital loop and how in other industries, AI and big data software has been able to, or exponential technologies like microchips and things like that, has been able to disrupt and accelerate certain industries, help them scale in different ways. And agriculture has been kind of left behind. Can you talk about a specific industry that has maybe anything similar to agriculture that you've observed this change in, where kind of real-time data has made such a big difference? Is there a parallel industry that we can bring to so we can kind of look at and compare that? I imagine in all the strategic planning, you had to look at that.
Well, I came from GE, and what we tried to do there was in San Diego, it's a case study that's out there. We put cameras in streetlights looking for empty parking places. San Diego, 20% of the on-street traffic in San Diego was people just driving around looking for parking places. So we tried to deploy image technology to reduce people driving around, find an empty parking place, and let them quickly move into that empty parking place. So in some sense, similar, quite a bit different plants versus parking places. So, I think it's coming online. Manufacturing, even in plants, there's a lot of systems where, let's say, to sell a plant, you have to have 3 flowering buds, 3 buds that are ready to open, and the plant has to be 6 inches tall. So there's a lot of flower growers out there who have a system. It's a little photo booth. They put the plant on a conveyor belt, run it through that booth, and it snaps a picture of it, and it says whether how much money they can get for that plant, and whether that goes to retailer X, retailer or Y, or back into the greenhouse for a little bit more maturity. So the difficulty is, do you move every single plant through a booth, or do you deploy technology at scale to see them in the grow? So we're sort of taking that existing model of running plants through a photo booth to determine whether it's ready to sale, but flattening that out and deploying it at scale. So absolutely other models, point models that are going there in that direction.
Great examples. Thank you for those, Jeff. Well, Jeff, I really want to thank you for your time today on this great presentation. And as Jeff mentioned, you can reach out to him and learn more about FarmVision AI and Illumitex, and also ask for your own demo to see how this could improve your grow. Jeff, any other tips on how people can reach out to you or find out about Illumitex?
Yeah, I think just Google FarmVision and Illumitex, and you'll find us. Push people toward the web. I think we go to shows, and although, as you point out, gosh, hopefully we can get through this and get back into our personal one-on-one contact, because we really need that as people.
Yeah, we need that as people, we need that as businesses, but we are also adapting. So it'll be interesting to see what creative ideas come from this. And certainly you've adapted to the LED market with this very exciting pivot. So let's have a big virtual round of applause for Jeff Bisberg, calling out. You're calling from Texas, Jeff, today?
I'm from Austin, Texas. We just went on shelter in place also. So it's amazing. It's amazing to have, it's a common enemy for the world. So I think if we all rally together, we can make some good out of this, digitally and non-digitally.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of good and creative things come out of this. So let's keep those positive vibes going. We want to thank you today for tuning in to Agritecture's travel-free digital conference series featuring thought leaders from around the world in ag tech, giving them the voice they need and giving you the knowledge you need. If you want to learn more about the conference and upcoming shows, you can go to agritecture.com/digital-conference. And please make sure you like this video, subscribe, share with your friends, and comment with questions and thoughts. Thanks so much, Jeff. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and take care.
Take care. Thank you.